Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Hello and welcome once again to the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. This is the service for March 13th, 2022. Thank you once again for joining us here on the Tri-State Denver Buddhist YouTube channel. Service order for this service will be Juseige. You can find Juseige on page 57 in the Blue Denver Service Book. Following Juseige, we'll have a reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed. You can find a copy of the Jodo Shinshu Creed in the description below this video. Following that, we'll have a Dharma talk, this time with a reading of the Shozo Matsu Wasan and how computer fan curves in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism go together. I hope you stick around and enjoy it. If you don't have a copy of the Blue Denver Service Book, well, don't worry, because if you look in the description below this video, you'll find a hyperlink to a Google Drive where you can download your own PDF copy of the Blue Denver Service Book. Feel free to download it, put it on your desktop, or print it off, because it's only with the Blue Denver Service Book that you can channel along with us here on the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. And this week is also the Buddhist Churches of America's Eitaikyo service. So we do encourage everyone to watch the Eitaikyo service after or before watching this TSDBT service. You can find a link for the BCA Eitaikyo service in the description below. And we want to thank everyone for sticking around with us here on the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. It was 2 years ago this week that we had our first ever Sunday service here on this channel. And what a 2 years it's been. So we want to thank everyone that's helped us, watched, and enjoyed these videos, shared them, voted on them, commented on them, and all the other things that have helped make this channel a reality and help spread the Buddha Dharma across the United States and across the world. Thank you so much all for your support. I am so deeply touched. At the end of this video, you'll find a card that comes up during the playing of Ondokusan, and you'll be able to click and see that first service from March of 2020. It features Reverend Thompson, Reverend Amada, and myself. So I hope you stick around and you're able to see it. And in the meantime, starting next week, March 20th, we'll have our first in-person service back here at the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. So if you'd like to come and participate in in-person service, please come down at 9:30 in the morning at 1947 Lawrence Street. And every Sunday after that as well. Come and share in the Buddha Dharma and hear the Nembutsu with your good friends. And until then, go and feel the light of the Nembutsu on you at all times. Put your hands in Gasho and say Namo Amida Butsu. Gagon chosengan hishimu jodo shingan fumanzok seifu joshonyak gahomu yoko fui naise shu 不在说明谁非众生啊，嘎西中不能妙手中几波，可强弥手梦，谁非众生啊。 Ryoku Jin Shonen Joe Shubon Yo Shigu Mujodo Isho Tenin Shi Jinriki Endai Ko 不生無才道少女三苦名交際集約難回避知恵言滅死根門案閉塞小悪道自断全宗門高僧上満足異様道自法日願修十期天候不言一種解放像構成苦毒法上内集中説法ししく供養一切分具足修徳本願念心上満徳意三害用如文無業知自難未不傷願悪営力投資最小損心願や効果大聖の感動国小天人と珍妙形願念しく読平等性非際道本問題心往生らこNamo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda 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 Butsu. Please join me in Gassho for a reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed. Jodo Shinshu Creed. I put my trust in the vow of Amida Buddha. Reciting Namo Amida Butsu, let us live life to the utmost with strength and joy. I look to the light of Amida Buddha. Constantly reflecting upon myself, let us strive to live a life of gratitude. I shall follow the teachings of Amida Buddha. Awakening to the right path, let us share the true Dharma with others. I rejoice in the compassion of Amida Buddha. Mutually respecting and aiding each other, let us endeavor to work for the good of all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. Hello and welcome once again to the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel and this Dharma talk for March 13th, 2022. So 2 years ago on this same weekend, so the second weekend of March, was the first time in ultimately the only time the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple closed down for the coronavirus. So 2 years ago on the second weekend was the first time that we filmed a YouTube service. And I remember setting up my LG V40 and my wife's Galaxy Note 8 and having these two phones out there recording with no microphones and no special equipment. And we just had these phones basically propped up here in the Nikotsudo. And myself and Reverend Thompson and Reverend Yamada did our first ever YouTube service. And it's amazing to think how those 2 years have both crawled and yet flown by. This just feels like a normal part of Tri-State Denver Buddhist activities now, but at the same time, it is a completely unique thing. But we haven't missed a Sunday in 2 years, and I'm really glad to be with you one more time here at the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. So in that vein, I would like to read from the Shozo Matsu Wasan, Shinran's hymns on the last Dharma age. So please join me in Gassho as I read the 81st Wasan from the Shozo Matsu Wasan. Doubting the inconceivable Buddha wisdom, believing in the efficacy of doing good and evil, and practicing the fundamental good, one aspires for the Pure Land. This is what's taught to be the womb birth. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. So this passage isn't super clear when you first hear it, because it sounds like a good thing, right? So doubting in the inconceivable Buddha wisdom, that's probably up on the not so good side. Believing in the efficacy of doing good and evil. Well, doing good is good, doing evil is bad, so we'll put that up on the good side. And practicing the fundamental good. Oh, that's great. One aspires for birth in the Pure Land. Yeah, we should aspire for birth in the Pure Land. This is what's taught to be the womb birth. Womb birth. That's a confusing thing. What is the womb birth? Well, below that, in this wonderful copy of the Rokoku translation series, they have so many awesome notes. And so if you get a chance to pick these up, I always recommend it. There's kind of a more plain English translation. People cling to the belief in the efficacy of the merits and demerits attained by personally doing virtuous or evil deeds and practicing the fundamental good of uttering the name. They are destined to obtain the womb birth. Though they desire to be born in the Pure Land, they still retain doubt in the inconceivable working of the Buddha for salvation of all and cannot realize the full benefit of his compassion. So basically, what this is saying is one is never blocked from the Pure Land when one says the Nembutsu. But there's the people out there that think, I'm going to do it so much better. And like, I'll use the Nembutsu too, and that's great. But like, it's my goodness, my amazingness that makes me born in the Pure Land. So because I'm so cool, and I'm so great, and I'm so perfect, even with just saying the Nembutsu a little bit, it's my good merits, my good conquering over evil that'll make me born in the Pure Land. It's through my own efforts. And so I may dabble in the Nembutsu, but what I'm really trying to do is be perfect. And it's easy for us, as Shinshu Buddhists to be like, oh, well, I'm the foolish one, I'm the Bombu one. I'm not trying to be perfect. And yeah, I think for most of us, we're not trying to be perfect. But there's moments in our lives when we're trying to be perfect, when we're trying to differentiate. I'm going to just do good things, and it's through my good works that I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to be born in the Pure Land through my good intentions. So I'm going to tell you a story that seems to do nothing to do with this whatsoever, but it's how I ended up talking to you about this today. So last Saturday, I was editing the YouTube service, and I was doing it on my computer. And I absolutely adore my computer. So when I first started editing YouTube services, I did it on a laptop. And it took a very long time because the laptop, while being kind of old and being kind of cheap, wasn't really made to do what I was doing on it. And so through working overtime shifts on the ambulance and through Presence and a bunch of other, I was able to go out and build my dream computer. And for those computer geeks out there, I've got a Ryzen 5950X. I've got a NVIDIA 3090 in there. I've got 64 gigabytes of RAM and a bunch of M.5 Samsung SSDs. This is the hotness. My MSI X570 motherboard. I love my computer. And it's on this computer that I'm able to edit these YouTube services for Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. So when you have a great computer like this, one of the things you have to really be concerned about is cooling. And I had noticed, because I've got the LEDs on my case. Yes, like I said, this is a much overdone computer, and I'm so happy I was able to work so long to get it. The LEDs on my case are actually tied in to tell me what the temperature of my processor is. And I had noticed for the last week or so that it had been more of an orange-red color than the normal blue-green color that's saying that it's running right and cool. And I just thought it was because we had had the heater on a lot and it had been kind of inconsistent temperatures. So I kind of, put it on the side. I went through, cleaned the filters, did all the stuff. And so as I was editing on Saturday, a horrible sound started to emit out of the AIO water cooler from my computer. And then it died. And all of a sudden, the processor of my computer was sitting right at 92 degrees centigrade and pretty much just sat there, throttling itself down with no cooling whatsoever. And so I looked over my computer and realized, wow, this is really broken. So I was able to save the editing I was doing and went out and bought a new AIO cooling setup, a different one, and put it in my new computer and wired it up, everything else, finished doing the YouTube service, everything else. And this new computer has a different fan control software. And so I can go in and design how it cools the processor on my computer. And I was really excited about this. And so I go through and I start tweaking it, and then I start tweaking it, and then I start tweaking it, and then I start tweaking it, and I'm trying to get the absolute perfect fan curve to cool my CPU. And I can't. I don't think it's possible because it's either too loud and my CPU is cooled well, or it's too quiet and my CPU gets too hot. There is no perfect. And so I started thinking about this. There's so many things we try to do to make something perfect. I know when I edit these services, I may spend hours trying to make something perfect, and in the end, it's not that different from just doing it the normal way. And this is part of our human expectation, is that we have the ability to do perfect, that we have the ability to do the right thing. So I hear people who had issues with the COVID vaccine. Well, we don't know if it's perfect. Or being a paramedic, I've heard stories like, well, why weren't you able to do this one thing to save this patient or make them feel better? Well, it's not a perfect science. In fact, nothing that we humans touch is perfect. Very few things are perfect. We look at the conflict in the world around us and we're like, well, why don't we just do these things? Why isn't there someone there to fix it instantly? Why is this not working? Why did coronavirus last for 2 years? And why does my car break down? Why do my tires not stick on the road when it's snowing out? And why doesn't my refrigerator keep strawberries from going bad in 3 minutes after buying them? And that's because we're not perfect, ladies and gentlemen. We're just people. And so no matter how much effort I put into making my fan curve do the exact right thing and be the right amount of cooling for my computer so it can both be quiet and high performance, I can't, because I'm not perfect to design the perfect fan curve, nor is the technology or the engineers or any of the other things that go into building this computer perfect. They are all inherently flawed. We are inherently flawed. So when we look back to the Shozo Matsu Wasan, and we see this, practicing the fundamental good, one aspires for the Pure Land. Saying the Nembutsu, that's the fundamental good. Saying the Nembutsu, one aspires for the Pure Land. But also believing in the efficacy of doing good and doing evil. So I ask you this question. 2 years out from the start of the pandemic, 2 years out from the changing of our worlds, 2 weeks out from the start of a war in Ukraine, 20 years out from 9/11, all these other events that have happened that are parts of our lives, is there a perfect answer to any of these things that we generate, that humans generate? Are you still angry at our responses to these things as a society? Are you still angry at our ability to not overcome them perfectly? I am. I'm angry at our coronavirus response, and I'm often angry at the war in Ukraine. I'm angry at how we fought wars in the Middle East, and I'm angry that there are homeless people here in the streets of Denver. I am angry. But when I remember that we as human beings live in doubt, and we live in this idea that there's an efficacy in doing good and evil, that there is a thing such as good and evil, and that it is theoretically and fully defined, then we end up angry. And that's okay. That's the human experience. But for us Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, what we have is something beyond our calculations of good and evil. What we have is Amida Buddha. What we have is the Nembutsu. And so when we go beyond our calculations, our idea of efficacy of good and evil, but instead look to Amida Buddha and we say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, and we look at that vow which encompasses all perfection, which encompasses all compassion, which encompasses all merit, and which encompasses you. And you say, Namo Amida Butsu. You are fully and utterly encompassed in the vow, compassion, and perfection of the Nembutsu. This is the vow made specifically for you. And so when I say perfection, one of these other issues with perfection is it's subjective. The Nembutsu is not subjective, it is objective. It is perfect for you objectively. That is great, I think. So while I am unable to solve COVID or even make the perfect fan curve for my computer, what I can do is acknowledge that I have doubt and look for the answer and say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And with that, I will not be born on the periphery of the Pure Land, because saying the Nembutsu will always get you born in the Pure Land, but rather I would be born in the warm embrace. I would be born in the Namo Amida Butsu. So please join me in Gassho as I read once again from the Shozo Matsu Wasan. Doubting the inconceivable Buddha wisdom, believing in the efficacy of doing good and evil, and practicing the fundamental good, one aspires for the Pure Land. This is what is taught to be the womb birth. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.